कितने पैसे चाहिए?
पैसा नहीं, इज्जत। मोहल्ले के चिरकुट लौंडे हरा रहे हैं फैंटेसी स्पोर्ट्स में। आप एक्सपर्ट हो, सिखाओ।
सिखाऊंगा तो जाने दोगे?
फैंटेसी स्पोर्ट्स का
असली अखाड़ा।
इस गेम में वित्तीय जोखिम के तत्व हैं और इसकी लत लग सकती है। कृपया जिम्मेदारी से और अपने जोखिम पर खेलें।
Hello and welcome to the Outside View presented by Fantasy Akhada. So, of course, India won the T20I series. Sri Lanka managed to get a consolation win there in the third T20I. But this time around, it's the third ODI. India has won the last two ODIs. They won the series. But for the Chamari Attapattu-led side, this game is going to be important. So, what do we expect from this game? And to discuss that further on, I have alongside me our experts, Annesha, Ghosh and Thirushkamini. Good morning and welcome to the show, both of you. So let's just start talking about both the teams first. India, of course, Annesha, in today's game as well, they start as favorites. Like, we still don't know about the playing 11, but we'll get to know in a while if there are any changes that they've tried. But until then, they anyhow today enter the contest as the favorites.
Absolutely. When you have already won 2 games out of 3 in a series and you have the series in the bag, there's not much to prove in terms of who holds the ace in terms of the two teams contesting the series. They certainly go in as favorites to not only just win this game, but also get those decisive, two very important, if not decisive points, ICC Women's Championship points under their belt. Because at the end of the day, that is the bigger picture they're looking at. There is context to every match they play in this championship. So India will look to further, make a statement of intent through their performance, and they will also look to iron out some creases that we've seen over the course of this tour, because they haven't been as convincing for the best part of it. Yes, in the first ODI, in the second ODI, the previous game, we saw the openers bat the kind of way we expect India batters to, display their performances on not just overseas soil, but also across the board. So that convincing nature of a victory did come across in that previous match. But barring that, there has been, mostly off-color shows from the Indian batting lineup, and while the bowling unit has done reasonably well on a consistent basis, so Sri Lanka will find it immensely difficult to mentally be on par heading into this final match of this tour. But they have no choice; they have their backs to the wall. So all they can do is eke out a consolation win, and they should really go for the jugular and really try and get that elusive victory in this series.
A consolation win is what the Sri Lankan fans would also want. But the news from the middle is that Sri Lanka has won the toss and they've elected to field first. They know the importance of this game, but India also knows the importance of this game. As Annesha rightly mentioned about the ICC Championship cycle, it has just started, and South Africa are at the top there with the victories against Ireland. And today, India has an opportunity to equal the points if they opt to clean sweep, and they'll see it as a big opportunity, Thirush, because we'll have important series coming in as well. But now that you've got the momentum, carrying it also becomes important, and a clean sweep would be something going on in India's mind as well.
It's important to grab those 2 points. Keeping the ICC Championship points are up for grabs, because these points will matter a lot when I'm playing against much more stronger side like Australia or New Zealand, or maybe even South Africa for that matter. So whenever you have the opportunity, it's important to get as many as points as possible. And also very important is what kind of a lineup is India going to go into, because they will be highly tempted to give opportunities for other players. But it's very important with the Commonwealth also around the corner to get the core intact, because you do not want to get the players too complicated by not understanding their role, because every time a player walks in, they have to know what kind of role they are going to go, and they need to be prepared for it. And for them to do that, you need to give a player the certain role, and give them a considerable amount of chances. And we also saw that how Shafali Verma and Smriti Mandana came out in flying colors in last innings. But they were backed by the management and given the number of opportunities to be able to play that kind of an innings. I think a similar opportunity needs to go to the other players by trying to understand the role that they are in.
Well, Smriti Mandhana and Shafali Verma did dominate the proceedings in the second ODI, and it was a treat for all of us. But Anisha, India is unchanged for today's contest. Do you think probably it was the best opportunity for them to get those players who were benched for those two ODIs and just give them some game time ahead of the Commonwealth Games? We still don't know the team, but anyhow, even if the formats are different, a match practice, a game practice, it always helps, and it was an opportunity for them to get those players today in.
Absolutely, Ashwini, and knowing, given the fact that Sri Lanka have not been anywhere close to being the competitor that you would expect the side facing India to be, they should have really taken the opportunity and tried out a few players, especially the likes of Sabineni Meghna and Poonam Yadav. Poonam Yadav, we spoke at length about how given she might be, low on confidence, she deserves an opportunity just for the sake of her getting a feel of things, getting a feel of, being out there amid this new Indian side under the captaincy of their newly installed ODI captain Harmanpreet Kaur. So it would have been a great opportunity, but again, we do not know whether she is carrying an injury of sorts or what the other rationale potentially could be. Yes, if you are to be in Harmanpreet's shoes and try and figure out what really is the rationale that has driven them to go with an unchanged 11 in the final ODI. It could just be that they want to give as much of match time as possible to the personnel they had fielded in the first two ODIs, and also make sure that the core that we are speaking of, if this is the core that they're looking at, they should be given the most exposure in terms of playing in overseas conditions, though they are very similar to what they get here back in India as well. So maybe it's not too bad a call, keeping the longer term picture in mind. That 2025 ODI World Cup and all of that, and Australia, mind you, tour India later this year, and after the Commonwealth Games, they're also going to play England on their home soil. So it's not as though we are looking at just the T20I format for their focus, for India's focus to be zeroed in on completely on that particular format. So they might just back themselves to give the longish rope, as longish a rope as possible, to the players who've done well and who won them the series with one game to go.
Definitely. So let's just first have a look at the playing 11 before we proceed the talks with India's batting unit. India, of course, as we just mentioned, that they've unchanged, and we want to see the same setup that played the second ODI. And Sri Lanka, if we see there, Chamari Attapattu, Vushmi Gunaratne, the youngster has been continued. She made her debut in the second ODI, and as then we see the important players for the Sri Lankan side, their bowlers have done a very good job, and that's what would be expected from them. Inoka Ranavira, Ushadi Ranasinghe there, Kavisha Dilhari haven't really got that momentum in the ODI series, but that's what Sri Lanka would aim. So this is how the setups, the Sri Lanka and India setups look like for today's match. But coming to India's batting unit, we saw that Smriti Mandhana and Shafali Verma, they were all guns blazing. They were in good form. And it was a big positive for India seeing the openers build that partnership. Specifically, speaking of Shafali Verma, she registered her highest ODI score there. That would be something that she would personally be happy for as well. But the thing about her innings in the second ODI, Thirush, it was that she was aiming to rotate the strike. She was aiming to build partnership. And that is what is more important when it comes to the 50 over format.
We saw the kind of maturity that Shafali Verma was displaying in the last ODI. And it's great to see the youngsters trying to step up, because every time we know of Shafali Verma, we've seen how ruthless she has been, but we haven't seen a bigger innings from her. But last innings did show unlikely a Shafali Verma, where she's taken the responsibility and tried to play as long as possible alongside Smriti Mandhana. And also talking about the points of trying to rotate the strike, it was very good to see of her, because when especially when there are good deliveries that are bold, and if it's tapped for a single and then you try to put your other partner in strike, it shows the kind of understanding that they both have as a partner. And it felt really good. There's no complaints about the way that they played last innings. And very importantly, I'm happy to see the way Shafali Verma is able to grab the opportunities, just not the last ODI, but right from the start of the series, even in the T20, she had those quick 30s. A long score, a big score was long due. And last innings was something we saw her able to do I mean, she was able to show us that she's also capable of staying there and displaying some good innings.
And with her there, it was Smriti Mandhana. We were talking about her getting into form and how important it would be for India. Of course, we saw that she reached her 90s, and we were all hoping that probably she might reach the triple figures. But anyway, they both of them did the job for the side, and that was more important. And without any loss of wickets was further something that added to the excitement, added to the joy of the Indian fans there. But what, according to you, Annesha, was something that stood out from Smriti Mandhana's innings in the second ODI? She got her rhythm back, and that is important for India when we look at the bigger picture, Commonwealth Games coming in. Because as a player, it somewhere probably keeps going around in the mind. Of course, they are international players, they have a lot of experience. They know that form is just about one innings, but this should be a positive for Indian team, but personally for Smriti Mandhana as well, because it affects the mindset when you take the field for this side in a big tournament like that of Commonwealth Games.
Oh, for sure, and especially considering Smriti has traditionally been a player who has delivered the big knocks, but she's also struggled with consistency in patches. You know, she's had those magnum opus years like 2018, and she was the ICC Women's Cricketer of the Year for the past year as well. So it is kind of a testament to the caliber that Smriti Mandhana is known for her ability to not just to play those quick fire knocks but also play the longer innings. But what was the standout to answer your question in that previous innings of 94 not out was the sheer desire to bat as long as possible, which is often not the case with Smriti Mandhana. Yes, she is the opener, and for a long time, she too hasn't gotten the kind of support she would have wanted off the middle order. There were patches over the past 4 5 years when Smriti was firing, Harmanpreet wasn't. Mithali Raj was doing her usual thing, anchoring the innings at a particular strike rate. So it's not as though this Indian team has settled into a rhythm as a team. Individually, if you look at them, they are great as individuals, but as a team, they are still lacking the cohesion, which I think the consistency that is required of an opening batter like Smriti Mandhana can bring to this side. Because unless you have, that stability up top, the kind of stability, say the likes of the Rachel Haynes gives right at the top of the Australian order, or Beth Mooney does as a floater. So these are players you can turn to on any given day, and they know for a fact that they will give you those, 30 odd runs as a bare minimum. So the if that is the kind of consistency Smriti Mandhana can bring to her game, I think she will end up scoring double the number of centuries she has easily, and can really realize her potential. She is immensely talented, but I don't think she, like Harmanpreet, this might sound like me saying the same thing all over again, but I don't think Smriti Mandhana has yet realized her potential or done justice to her talent, simply because her consistency is nowhere close to, say, the likes of a Laura Boulevard or Meg Lanning. If you look at their ODI averages, where is Smriti Mandhana in that conversation? We talk about the big four in men's cricket, right? In men's test cricket, so if a similar conversation is to be had in women's cricket with the 50 over format in mind, given women don't play a lot of test cricket, so we don't have the sample size, the data, I think Smriti Mandhana will be looking inwards a little bit. She is the introspective kind, and she would be looking to better that average even from what it is right now, and that has to come via greater desire to play the longer innings and remain unbeaten. That is really key. We cannot overstate the importance of an unbeaten innings in this Indian side. The longer she plays, the higher the chances of India winning a match. It's as simple as that.
And that's what exactly we will be hoping today, that she plays long. As India is batting first, a lot of responsibility will be again on the top order. We saw that the top order took that responsibility in the second ODI, but the middle order, we didn't get the opportunity to actually see them, as both of them did the job for the side. But today, Thirush, we have depth in India's batting unit, of course. So how do you see India's middle order at this moment? We know we have quite a few all-rounders there as well, who've been contributing with the ball for the side as well. But come today's game, if at all the wicket is bowling friendly, it appears to be bowling friendly, and the wicket falls early, a lot of responsibility is going to come on the middle order as well. So what are your thoughts on India's middle order at this moment when it comes to the 50 over format? Should I repeat the question, Thirush? I guess there is some network issue. Can you hear me, Thirush? I guess there's some network issue, but I'll come to you, Anisha, with the same question. How do you see India's middle order shaping up for today's game?
Yeah, they've got a great opportunity given Sri Lanka have decided to bowl first. So the middle order is going to be tested should Smriti Mandana and Shafali Verma not have the kind of day they had the other day in Palanpur, the second ODI. So a lot would depend on number one, how the openers fare in this game. And should that consistency not be on due today, the likes of Harmanpreet, Harleen Diol, they will have to put their hand up. Richa Ghosh, who's playing as a second as a backup keeper in this lineup. We've seen her, make way for uh, Yastika Bhatia behind the stump. So a lot of onus is on them to really come up with the goods, knowing that not every day is your openers going to give you the runs, which is what they should be looking to do. The openers on their part, but given it's a good opportunity. Sri Lanka had opted to bowl first, so they can really flex their batting muscles, try their best to flex their batting muscles, so to speak, the entire lineup, and really put up a convincing score, biggish score, because the bowling unit of the host, while it has been dominating in matches, especially their spinners, and the surfaces
Yeah.
have been on the slower side. The previous game had a slightly quicker surface with relatively more pace in it. I don't think as a bowling unit they pose as big a threat as one for India to be completely taken aback by. So here is an opportunity for them to really shrug off all kind of rust, get rid of all kind of rust that may have settled in. They have that mental advantage going into this game, so might as well look to post that 250, 260 odd, because however bad the pitch, you can't end up scoring, 138, 140-ish as they scored in the T20 leg of the tour. So their runs have to come in a more substantial manner. And given the format, it's a 50 over format, they should really look for that 260 score as a bare minimum, because they are, one of the top ranked sides, and they're facing a competitor which are low on confidence, and their resources have also not fired in the series.
A big total would definitely be in India's mind. But getting to Sri Lanka's bowling now, I guess we've got Thirush back. Thirush, you can hear us, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let's go to Thirush with our bowling question about Sri Lanka's bowling. Of course, it has been impressive since the T20Is as well, and in the ODI, first ODI also. But something went wrong with them in the second ODI. Probably the batters were too good. But what do you think was one thing that was of concern when it comes to Sri Lanka's bowling in the second ODI, Thirush, and what tweaks they would have made when it comes to today's game, because it's an important one for them. They wouldn't want a clean sweep.
A lot depends on how a fielding unit is, because based on how they are fielding, even an ordinary bowling will look exceptionally good. But I think a lot depended on there were opportunities created, and a very low total. They do not have much to play with. So a lot was involved in the way they were going to field. We did see a lot of catches going down, opportunities given, because as a team you'd want to grab those, and that's exactly when the momentum will be on your side. So that was something that more than the bowling, I think that was something they'll be more concerned about. And also all due credits to the way the Smriti and Shafali had played, because they just gave no opportunity for no room for error when it had come to their batting. And maybe we talk about consistency. I think one bad day for the bowlers is completely acceptable, because Inuka Ranavira and Oshidi have been exceptionally good throughout the tournament. So one off day is completely acceptable with the way they have done. But getting back to what I feel, it has nothing to do with the bowling unit. I think a lot depends on, like Anisha mentioned, posting big scores is the only option where their bowlers will have something to bowl at. Otherwise, batters are going to come, going to hammer them, irrespective of how great you are going to bowl. So I think a lot depends on how they're going to be able to. Maybe today could be a different story because they are bowling first. But from the last game, I really don't think much could have been done.
Yeah, the score was not quite big in the second ODI, and that's what is definitely right. That and the Sri Lankan bowlers today have this opportunity. They know that the Indian batters will be out, and they can restrict them at the lowest possible, and that's when Sri Lanka can now get the opportunity to avoid a clean sweep. A lot would be on the bowlers, but before we wrap this up, let's take quick predictions from our experts. I'll come to you, Annesha, first. Who is your pick of the bowler today if Sri Lanka has to dominate the proceedings?
Oshali Ranasinghe has to be the pick of the bowlers for me because of the sheer grit and determination she's shown against India's left-hand batters in specific. And along with her, the tandem she forms with Inoka Ranavira is going to be as potent as we've seen them to be for the best part of this series. So those two are going to be the key cogs in Sri Lanka's bowling unit in terms of getting those early breakthroughs and making sure that they restrict India to a relatively subpar score.
Perfect. So coming to Thirush, what would be the first innings score? What's your prediction on that?
No, it's very difficult unless the first few overs started. Can't really predict a score. But if you ask me how much I would want India to score, definitely well above a 270 because we've seen them post that kind of a score in the World Cup. So I think going down in the tournament, it's important that they're able to be more consistent in hitting the target. So 270 is the kind of target I would expect from India.
So both the teams are ready to start the action and we are all ready to witness the action. We'll of course join you for the mid-show when the first innings would have been done and then we'll discuss the first innings as well there. So until then, you stay tuned to Women's Cricket Zone for all the updates on women's cricket.
ये पट्टा अब सीख तो गए, अब तो जाने दो मुझे।
ठहर जाइए, कोई प्रॉब्लम हो गई तो कहाँ ढूंढेंगे आपको?
फैंटेसी अखाड़ा का 24/7 कस्टमर सर्विस है, आपकी प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करवा देंगे।
कल जाने देंगे।
Fantasy Sports
का असली अखाड़ा।
इस गेम में वित्तीय जोखिम के तत्व हैं और इसकी लत लग सकती है। कृपया जिम्मेदारी से और अपने जोखिम पर खेलें।